everybody, it's your girl JLove81 and you're watching Chris, the old ass retro gamer.
Hey everybody, Chris, the old ass retro gamer here. Welcome to another video game collection 2022 live stream, soon to be 2023. Tonight I'm talking about the second half of my Sega Saturn collection. Why do I do these live streams? Oh my god, it is going to be so loud behind me. It is snowpocalypse out there right now. All I hear are cop cars and people shoveling and ambulances and trains. Anyway, I do these for 4 reasons. 1, it's fun. 2, I get to talk to awesome people while I do it. 3, it's good content for the channel. And 4, it is really good to have a visual record of everything in my collection. Keep track of it. In case something bad happens, I can say, look, I was holding it in my hand. Insurance company, give me that money. Anyway, so last week I stopped after the G's. So the last game I talked about was Gun Griffin. And we're going to start off with the H's today. So let's just get right into it, shall we? It's going to drop down to 11. It's like 35 in Chicago right now, and it is snowing like crazy. It's not like super heavy right now, but according to the weather or the news, it's going to probably snow until Saturday. I think it said Saturday until noon. So it's been snowing since I think 11 o'clock this morning, and it started really light, and now it's, I want to say we got maybe an inch, and it's 8:30 now, so I don't think it's going to be too bad. I think Chicago is getting over exaggerated, but we'll see what it's like tomorrow morning when I wake up. Anyway, let's get into these games, man. Got a lot to talk about. I honestly did not realize that my Saturn collection was this big until like you have it stacked up like this, and then it's like you have a problem. It's a good problem, but it's a problem. Okay, so first game is Heir of Zendor, The Legend and the Land. So when I bought this, I was under the assumption that it was a shmup. I haven't played it. If I did, it was just to test it out to make sure it worked, because I did get this one off of eBay. Now I'm reading the back, and I'm thinking it's like a strategy game. It looks like a shmup on the back, like especially this picture right here, but looks are deceiving. The way it reads on the back, it sounds like a strategy game. Like, deploy your forces for battle. Okay. I think I need to boot up my Saturn and try this one out because, like I said, I think the only time I actually put this disc into my Saturn was to see if it booted. And it did, and I was good. So, I'm in the dark on this one, guys. Help me out. Is it a strategy game or is it a shmup? I am confused. Next up, we have, this is one of the big hitters. I didn't think I was going to be able to get a copy of this, and then I was at the Midwest Gaming Classic, and this was in 2019, I think it was. And there was like this one table that had like a bunch of Saturn games. They were below eBay prices. They're still expensive, but this is something you need to know about me. I've probably mentioned it before, that if I'm at a convention, I usually have like my tax return money. I might have some money left over from the bonus we get at the beginning of each year from my employer, and I've also saved up some money, on the side to bring with me. And that's usually my spending money. And then there is the people at the convention who are sellers who will say the magic word to me, which is, do you want to pay with cash or credit? And usually if they say that, I'm be like, credit. And that just means the cash ain't leaving my pocket. That just means it's leaving at a later date. So this one particular table had a bunch of Saturn games that I wanted. I think there's one more in here that I picked up at this specific table. I think so. And they were like, do you want to pay with cash or credit? And I was like, credit. Ring it up. And that's Herc's Adventures. I remember John Tron talking about this in a video. I think he was talking about the PlayStation 1 version, though, and how it's like this fantastic top-down Legend of Zelda style adventure game, but it's all funny and silly. It's was it done by LucasArts, so it's got that kind of weird tongue-in-cheek sense of humor that they had like in Full Throttle and some of their adventure games. And I never played this back in the day, so I was really curious about it, and I saw what the price was it was going for. It was pretty expensive. But like I said, the lady at the convention was selling it below the eBay price, and she said those words that I despise, but I can't resist. And I picked it up. And I played it a little bit when it first showed up, because the year that I did this, I actually played each and every game that I brought home that year. I think this was 2019. And like recorded a chunk of it so I could use it in a pickup video. And then I realized that was the year or the moment that I realized I hate pickup videos. I hate putting together the pickup videos. I'd rather just do it in stream form. And that was honestly was 2019. What was it? 2019 April, when I was like, the hell with this. So you can see it's like a top-down action adventure game, and it's got a bunch of like animated cutscenes. I don't think it has any like celebrity voices or anything like that. Yeah, choose to be Hercules, Atlanta, or Jason from the Argonauts, and become faster, stronger, or smarter with gameplay. Yeah, I played it for maybe a half an hour, and I enjoyed what I played. I just haven't gone back to play it anymore. Like I said, I'm still waiting for that damn Poly Mega to show up so I can start streaming these damn games. Next up, we have Hexen. I'm a sucker for a good first-person shooter, and I remember my dad had this on his PC, and I played it a little bit. It's made by id, the people that did Doom. So I was like, oh, what's their next big shooter going to be? And it's basically Doom, but it's a fantasy version of Doom. Not that I'm complaining. It's just I wasn't prepared for it because the way the weapons kind of work, or it's just a little bit different. But I got used to it, and I played it for a good while, but I preferred playing Doom and Blood and Duke Nukem on my dad's PC. But you can't really see on the pictures, but it is a first-person shooter. You have some hand weapons. You have ones that shoot. You have, I think, 3 different types of characters to pick from. Yeah, 3 heroes. It's like a wizard, a warrior, and I can't remember what the other one is. It's like a wizard, a warrior, and like maybe an archer or something. I usually pick the warrior because, he can take the hits and he's strong. The wizards are squishy. But it's a really cool game. I like this one a lot. I wish that we had a port of the first game, because this is actually part 2 in the series. The first game is called Heretic. And actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, I think that was the one I was playing on the PC and not this. Yeah, it was the first time I played this was on a home console. Whatever. I'm tired. It's late. I'm on vacation right now, but I've been like staying up super late to play God of War. Last night I did another episode of the Super Naylor Brothers podcast, and we're up until I think 1:30 in the morning doing that. So yeah, I haven't been getting a lot of sleep. Even though I'm on vacation, I'm still tired like I was at work. It's strange. Next up, we have In the Hunt. This is another game that I picked up at the Midwest Gaming Classic. I think I got this one in 2019 also. This is a very cool shmup. It almost looks like the people that animated the Metal Slug games did this, but the cool thing about this one is instead of being in a ship, like a spaceship or a plane or something like that, you are in a submarine. And it does all the standard shoot 'em up things, except you're underwater for 95% of the time. It's kind of rad. I remember Radical Reggie was talking about this in one of his videos, and I thought it was pretty cool. I know at least 3 other videos I saw where people were bragging about how awesome this game is. So when I found it at the convention, and it was not super expensive, it was at another table, I remember, and I was like, nah. And then I went to this other place where I got another game you'll see later. I got this and that in a bundle, and I think I paid maybe $50 less than I was going for on eBay at the time. But super awesome shmup, and I was glad that I got it for the Saturn because we all know the Saturn is the better of between that and the PlayStation 1 and the Nintendo 64. When it came to like 2D stuff, the Saturn was way superior. So I was glad to get that for this console. Next up is another one that I got at the Midwest Gaming Classic. It's not the one that It's Rocket Sauce calls the Honey Hole. There was this one table that Musty Hobbit from the Cartridge Club was always telling me, the guys at this table down here, they're movers. I think I talked about it in the Super Nintendo because I got Lost Vikings from them too. He's like, this one table down here, they're just movers. They have a ton of games, some expensive, some not. They just want to sell everything and not have to take anything back with them, when they go home at the end of the con. So, like, you just throw, even though the game might have a price on it, throw a number at them. And he says, like, 8 times out of 10, like a quarter, like 3/4 of the time, they'll be like, okay, as long as it's reasonable. So, they had a copy of Iron Storm. I think, Mondang, you just talked about this in one of your shorts, didn't you? They had this, and I remember wanting this one back in the day, but I never actually got it because one of my things back in the day was I wanted to get like a lot of the working designs games because I enjoyed some of their stuff on the Sega CD, and I thought they were really, really cool. And I love their packaging because they do like the metallic paints and the raised surfaces and all that, and their artwork is fantastic. You can see the metallic on Iron Storm at the top. So they had a copy of this, and I want to say it was priced for like $80, and I threw like 50 at them, and the guy was like, yeah, okay. Sure. Here you go. And then like I ran up, I bought the game. I walked over I was still holding it in my hand. I walked over to where Musty Hobbit was. He was like 2 tables down, and I'm opening up my backpack so I could put this in there. He's like, oh, what'd you get? So I hand this to him, and he's looking at it, and he's like, oh, that's pretty cool. What kind of game is it? I'm like, it's a strategy game. It's kind of like Military Madness, but like done in 3D. And he's like, oh, that's cool. Why is there a picture of Hitler on the back? I was like, what? And I look at it, and I was like, oh, shit. And yeah, you can see there's a picture of that schmuck Hitler on there. Turns out in the game, when I booted it up when I got home from the convention, I was capturing footage for this. And you can play as the Allies or the Axis. And I was like, okay, that explains why, they've got that in there. It takes place during World War II, so obviously it has to be in there. Not that I'm happy that it is in there, but, it's part of history, so whatevs. But one of the things was when I was capturing the footage, I was like, I'm going to play as the Axis and allow the computer who is playing as the Allies to just completely annihilate me, and I'm going to record it and use that as the footage. Just watching the Nazis getting obliterated. I thought that was going to be super funny, and then I never used any of the footage. But it's a pretty cool game. It's got a little bit of a learning curve, but I'm not complaining. I love a good strategy game once in a while to mix things up. What's up, Retro Coop? How's it going? Hey, no problem. Hey, everybody's got stuff going on. No problem. I'm just glad that you're here tonight. Another fighting game. We got Last Bronx. This is another one of the Sega exclusive ones. This is another 3D polygon one that's done like Virtua Fighter. So this one's okay. If I remember correctly, Is this the... Hey, Mondane, is this the one where everybody's on, like, roller skates and shit? Or is that... That's the other one, I think. I can't remember. I get confused because a lot of these just remind me of the... Like, they all were, like, combined into one game in my brain. Fighting Vipers. Yeah, that fighting... Okay. Fighting Vipers, Fighters Mega Mix, Last Bronx. Okay. Yeah, I had this one back in the day. I liked it, but I did not play it a whole lot because, honestly, I was always playing Fighters Mega Mix because I got this one pretty late in the game, if I remember correctly. But I did get this one off of eBay super cheap when I first got back into collecting. I think this was like the third Saturn game I bought back in like 2013, 2014. And I probably paid like $20 for this. Super cool. Fighting Vipers, yeah. Next up, we have Last Gladiators Digital Pinball. I love digital pinball. I've brought this up many, many times. This, I think, was the second game that I bought on eBay when I got back into collecting when I was talking about the Saturn. Yeah, I got this like dirt cheap on eBay. This was like $10, I want to say. That's why I bought it. I hadn't played it before, but I was just like, pinball, hell yeah. And when it first showed up, I played the shit out of it. It's actually really cool. It's a decent digital pinball game, and I can't complain. There's not much to talk about. There's like how many tables on here? Play up to 4 completely different pinball type tables, or they call it games, but tables. But yeah, can't complain. Digital pinball, when it's done right, it can be fantastic. When it's done badly, it's no. There's some, I mean, come on, Pinball Quest on the Nintendo? What the hell? That is awesome. It does have a skateboarder or a rollerblader. I remember, yeah, Fighting Vipers is the one where like I remember people were like on roller skates and rollerblades all the time. Has a second disc with a weird minigame. So I had this one back in the day when I first had my Saturn back in '95 when I first bought it when it came out. I didn't buy this game when it first came out. I bought it, I didn't buy it when the Saturn first came out. I got it when the game actually came out. This is a sequel to a Genesis game, Beyond Oasis. We have Legend of Oasis. So I got this from some dude in Brazil. He was selling a bunch of games for the Saturn in his collection because I think he needed to pay some bills or something. And he was selling them in a Facebook group for like dirt cheap. I might have talked about it last week. I don't recall. But I remember when I saw this in the picture that he had on Facebook, I was like, give that to me because I remember it being pretty awesome. So this is kind of like a Legend of Zelda clone. It's a 3/4 view, top-down action-adventure game that plays similar to The Legend of Zelda. But if I remember correctly, Yuzo Koshiro does the music for this one. I think so. But honestly, I don't want to play this until I can get a copy of Beyond Oasis because if this is the sequel, I want to play the OG first. So I don't want to have spoilers or whatever if there is any in here at all. Yeah, and I got it for a really, really good price. I want to say like when all is said and done in like the 4 or 5 games. Oh, I know one of them I got from that guy was the Hexen. Yep, I remember that much. I also want to say the Daytona Championship Circuit I got from the guy. But I think I want to say when all said and done, I paid like $40 for this, which is actually a pretty good price. So I popped this in to make sure it worked when the guy shipped it to me. It worked fine, but I haven't played it because I want to play the original. I got the hiccups for some reason. I haven't drank anything in like an hour. License game, and not a very good one. Yeah, this one is kind of poop-tastic, and that is Lost World Jurassic Park. Wanted to get it because Jurassic Park. I like Jurassic Park, even though the games usually leave a lot to be desired. This one, if I remember right, is a side-scrolling run-and-gun type of thing, because that's what it looks like on the back. I haven't put a whole lot of time into it. I could have sworn this one was an on-rails shooter. I might be thinking of Congo, though. I don't know. It looks on the back. It looks like a side-scrolling, like a 2.5D side-scrolling action game. You can kind of see it down here. It says 5 characters, including the mighty T-Rex, a raptor, a compy, a human, hunter, and a scientist. Yeah, it looks like poop. I hear it is nothing but poop. It is not like the PlayStation game, which is the one that I had, not this back in the day. The PlayStation one is kind of craptastic too. That's where we just basically play as dinosaurs. But yeah, no Jurassic Park game. I mean, from this generation and the previous, like the only one that I can say I honestly liked was was it Jurassic Park 2: The Chaos Continues on the Super Nintendo, and that's the one that wasn't directly tied into any movie. That was like its own little sequel to the game. It had nothing to do with any film. Usually, the games based on the movies were not good. Then we have, I think I got this one from that dude in Brazil, The Mansion of Hidden Souls. This is actually a remake of a game that came out on the Sega CD, if I remember right. And I had the Sega CD version back in the day, but I never actually bought this until I got back into collecting. And this is like playing Myst. It's like a point-and-click adventure game. A lot of full-motion video and stuff like that. It's okay. If I remember right, the one on the Sega CD had like butterflies, like glowing purple butterflies on the artwork on the front. But it's the exact same game, as I remember. It's just like higher res, thankfully, because sometimes those Sega CD full motion video games can make your eyes bleed, or maybe pop an eye or a blood vessel in your eye trying to make out what you're looking at. But yeah, it's okay. I remember I played the Sega CD one quite a bit. I haven't actually played the Saturn version very much, just to make sure it worked, and that was about it. Yeah, I got this from my buddy Felix the Brat from Batterad Nerdatorium on Facebook. He knew that I was looking for some of the Capcom fighting games for the Saturn at one point, because he had asked me, like, hey, is there anything you want me to look out for when I'm going out game hunting? He buys like lots of games, because I've said it before, he owns a stall at a flea market in Ohio that is all about video games, and he gets some awesome stuff. Like, he goes out and buys these gigantic lots of games, and then he'll take a picture of like 100 games that he picked up in one night kind of thing. And he knows that I like Saturn. He knows that, well, when I was collecting for the Dreamcast, he would like show me the Dreamcast stuff, but like Super Nintendo stuff, he'll usually show me. But he was like, hey, I got some new Saturn stuff. Does this one interest you? And it was Marvel Superheroes. I never really played the arcade version of this one all that much. I always played Children of the Atom. No, I played this and I never played Children. I never knew Children of the Atom was an arcade game. That was it. I always played this one, never played Children of the Atom. Memory. But this is a one-on-one fighting game that's all Marvel characters by Capcom, so you know it's going to be freaking amazing, and it is. A little bit of load times, but you can't, get past that when it comes to like these early disc-based games. But yeah, Captain America, Psylocke, Wolverine, Spider-Man, Hulk. I think this one also has Shumagorath, Iron Man, Psylocke, Blackheart, Juggernaut, and Magneto. I absolutely love these games. And of course, you want like a side-scrolling or a game that has like hand-drawn animation in it, like 2D. This is the console to get it for. I do believe this is also on the PlayStation, but I would not want it there. Got to have it on the Saturn. Absolutely. No contest. And it has the 2-player mode. Hell yeah. If I had the space and I had the money, I would definitely get that arcade one-up that has Marvel Superheroes and was it Capcom versus X-Men or Children of the Atom or whatever it is on there. Marvel versus Capcom. Goes for a pretty penny now. Yeah, I do have Die Hard Arcade. I talked about that one last week. Yeah, I love that game. Had to have this because, reasons. Got to have Mortal Kombat 2 on the Saturn. And the thing is, of all of the home ports of Mortal Kombat 2 that we got in the States, you would think that this one would be the one to get. I think Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, I think, had come out already before this did, and this was like a very late port. It was just kind of like another cash grab kind of thing. Like, oh, by the way, Mortal Kombat 2, even though, you have the third one out there. And you would think after Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 turned out to be so good that this one would be awesome, but this one is actually kind of terrible. Like, the controls are very unresponsive for some reason. Like, you can't do split-second moves, or I don't know what it is. And the load times in it are kind of atrocious, so it makes it kind of unplayable. And I was super excited about this back in the day because I remember, like, I went to my local Blockbuster and they were renting Saturn games, and I rented a copy of this. And I was like, this is going to be awesome. I want to try it out because I already have it for like 3 other consoles. Let's check this one out. And I popped it in, and I was just like, oh no. What have you wrought upon humanity? It is pretty bad, but one of the Mortal Kombat things for the collection nowadays, so I absolutely have to have this. I'll probably get the one on the 32X too, even though I don't own a 32X, but not that good. Not that good. Still need to get Mortal Kombat Trilogy, though. That one is the expensive one. Needed to use the RAM cart, most likely. I don't know. I like that Mortal Kombat arcade one-up is kind of awesome. All those Marvel Capcom fighters are definitive on Saturn, still is. You sold what? You sold your Marvel vs. Capcom or Marvel Superheroes? Yeah, I needed to use that RAM card, definitely. There's a lot of stuff that needed to use that RAM card. Although, you know, that is a port of an arcade game, this is probably a super awesome port of an arcade game. I talked about this in one of the, what was it, the 31 Days of License Games series that I did at the beginning of the year, and that is NBA Jam Tournament Edition. I used to play the crap out of these on the Super Nintendo, but when the Saturn version came out, I was just like, that's probably going to be the one to get. And I was right. It's a fantastic arcade basketball, like 2-on-2 game. Got to play as the Bulls because they were super popular when this came out. I played this all the time back in the day. I absolutely loved it. And I didn't care what console I was playing it on, but this is definitely the best version we got. I think it's also available on the PlayStation 1. I can't be sure, but I always had it on the Saturn. And I just have like great memories of, especially when it came to like the Super Nintendo version, just me and my buddy Gary just sitting in his bedroom playing this for like hours on end, just endlessly trash talking each other, like saying some of the foulest shit you have ever heard two like 17-year-olds saying to each other. It would be like, if his mother was home and listening at the door, she would have been like, what is happening? Like, it's Chris corrupting my son. Get out of my house. Give him all these new swear words. So when it comes to sports games, there's only one sport that, other than like an arcade, something like that, but like there's only one sport that I'll go out of my way to get a copy of. You sold the Marvel Superheroes one up. Okay, I got you. We got NHL All-Star Hockey 98. I will go out of my way to get a hockey game because I love video game hockey. The game itself, the real one, is okay. I can watch it every once in a while, but when it comes to playing one, this is the only one that I can actually do because it's always something going on, and it's kind of cool. This one is like the 3D one, which is kind of different. A lot of them are still doing like the little top-down, like characters are really tiny. Of the day, like NHL on the NHL games on like the Genesis and all that kind of stuff. But this one was really rough, though. This one is not the better of the two, but well, Sega Sports version, whatever. I mean, could have been worse. But then you got this is NHL Power Play. This one is not that great. This one's by Virgin. And it's kind of the same thing. It's trying to do the 3D, but this was a really early 3D hockey game, so didn't fare too well either. But, I mean, they're both playable, but they're not great. No, I don't own a CRT. I don't have a room for it. I used to have a flat-screened Sony that was like, what, 24 inches or 25 inches or something like that I used to have in my bedroom, but that thing took up so much space, I ended up just getting a little LCD screen that I picked up on Black Friday at Best Buy. Here's another awesome Capcom fighting game that is Night Warriors Darkstalkers Revenge. Absolutely had to get this. When I got back into collecting in 2013, this was the first game that I bought for the Saturn. Absolutely had to have it. Also because I caught someone slipping, and I wasn't going to pass it up. I was like, get it while you can. Don't hesitate on this because you're going to come back, in a couple of days and it's going to be gone. So I had this back in the day also. Friends used to come over and play the shit out of this because the arcade game, like original Darkstalkers in the arcade, like me and my friends used to play the shit out of that one. That was so fun. It was cool to be playing a game where you're playing as like horror archetypes. You got you got a vampire, you got a Frankenstein's monster, you got a succubus, you got a mummy, all that wolfman, all that kind of stuff. And a zombie. It's awesome. So absolutely had to get the sequel. And because it's a 2D fighting game, hand animated by Capcom, got to have it on the Saturn. Best version there is. Absolutely fantastic. Can't go wrong. I'm making up weird ways to describe how awesome it is. Oh, this is not complete. This is far from complete. I do not have a complete collection for the Saturn. I do not want to go for a complete collection because I'll go bankrupt. I'll have it, and then I'll have to immediately move out and live underneath a bridge somewhere. Picked this one up at one of the exchanges by my house, and this was when I was selling a bunch of my limited run games that I like. Back when limited run first started, like I would just buy every single game that they released. I didn't care what it was. I was just buying it because I'm thinking that these things are going to be like super collectible and all that. And then like after a while, I started looking at the games that I was buying. I was like, I don't even think I want to play this one if I opened it up. There's no reason for me to have like Keto Blaster and stuff like that. They look like garbage. So I got rid of like a whole bunch of them. And I took them to my local exchange, and they gave me like hundreds and hundreds of dollars for it. And I just went crazy buying a bunch of really expensive games that I normally wouldn't be able to afford. They had a copy of Nights into Dreams in their expensive case, so I picked it up because I had this back in the day. I bought the big boxed one that came with the 3D controller and all that. I have the controller separate. I don't have the big box for this, but I didn't want to have the little jewel case version, which is what came with that big box version. This was the one that came separately. But I had to have this. Absolutely awesome by Sonic Team. It's like them trying to come up with a new mascot or a new type of character to add to their repertoire, where I don't remember what the character's name is. Is it Knights? I don't remember what the character's name is, but you have to use the new thumbstick that was on the 3D controller to like do loop-de-loops and stuff, and like because you're basically flying the whole time instead of running like Sonic. You're always like floating and going in a constant, like you're always flying to the right. You can do all these loop-de-loops. You have to fly through rings and stuff and collect items. You have to like circle around items in order to collect them. It's really fun. I like it a lot. I wish we had more sequels. I wish there was more Nights out there. They did get like a add-on to this in Japan. It's like Nights into Dreams Christmas Edition or something, and I can get a repro of that in a box like this if I really wanted to, but I haven't pulled the trigger on that yet. And then we got a sequel on the Wii, which is not that great. His name is Nights. I thought so. It's been a while. But I played the crap out of this back in the day. Absolutely loved it. That was another one of those like showstopper games where I'd be like, look at this new way of playing a game with this new type of controller. And I remember my buddy Charlie being like, ooh. Yeah, you got lucky. You did get lucky. I probably should have bought this on the PlayStation 1 since the PlayStation 1 did 3D better than the Saturn did. But I got this from my buddy Felix the Brett from Batterad. Now, he sold this to me when I got Marvel Superheroes from him, and that is Pandemonium. This is like a 2.5D platformer, and it's okay on the Saturn. It's definitely better on the PlayStation. Like I said, it probably handles the 3D better, but it's okay. There's a sequel to this that's only available on the PlayStation, so at some point, if I can find the first and second game on the PlayStation, I might trade those in or get those in exchange for this. But until then, I'll keep this one. It's actually pretty fun. It's just very, like the graphics are very chunky. I remember that much. It's kind of like an early version of what Klonoa ended up being, I guess. But I can't complain. It's super fun. The long box repro cases are great. His disc broke. Yeah, I know Radical Reggie has one, and I know a guy. I think I talked about him last stream when I was talking about Dragon Force 2. The guy who does the repros for the real high quality repros for the Saturn. I think he does every year like a run of Christmas nights, and I need to check to see if he's doing it this year also. So that just gave me something to think about. Hey now. Okay, now we got this awesome franchise. So we got Panzer Dragoon. This is one of the first games I picked up for the Saturn back in the day when I first got it. And my brother used to make fun of this all the time. Because every time he'd like walk in my room, be like, "What are you playing?" And I'd be like, "Panzer Dragoon." He'd be like, "Pansy Dragoon." And I was just like, "Dude, knock it off." Streamed it on Monday, yeah. And I loved the hell out of this game. It's like playing Star Fox. You're sitting on the back of a giant alien-looking dragon thing, and you basically hold down the attack button and like try to run your reticle over all the enemies that are coming at you, and it'll highlight them all. Then you let go of the button, and you shoot like 10 laser beams at them. And you can spin around your character in 360 degrees. It's really, really cool the way it works. The graphics are very chunky because this was like a really early Saturn game, and as the series progressed, the graphics got better and better, and so did the play control. But really awesome shooter. Like if you like those on rails type shooters, this is definitely a fun one. Still holds up. It even got a remake on the Switch, and I have it for the PlayStation 4. You're welcome. It's what I'm here for, to enable everybody. Then you got Panzer Dragoon 2 Zwei. Why the subtitle for this is Zwei, since Zwei means two. But yeah, this one, everything is a little bit better, more polished, same kind of play control, except this one, I do believe you have characters that run around on the ground. Yeah, you have like a little, like a horsey one that kind of runs around on the ground. These games are absolutely fantastic. I could pop one of these in any day of the week. If I had my Saturn hooked up all the time, I'd probably be playing these a lot, especially a certain something I'm going to talk about next. Make a topic on Game Facts just to talk about Christmas nights. We got Panzer Dragoon Saga, probably the most expensive game on this console right now. If it's not one of the working design games, it might be this. So the disc, the 4 discs that are in here, the manual and just the manual and the discs that are in here are my original copies that I bought back in like 1996 or whatever is when the game came out. I can't remember. Okay, but like I was saying back then, I kept the manuals and I kept the back art. At some point, I threw the back art away. I don't remember doing it, but I must have done it at some point when I was moving. It got tossed accidentally. I'm ever pissed about that because trying to piece this damn thing back together over the last, I think I finished this 2 years ago, I want to say. It took, I started doing this in 2013 and I finished it 2 years ago. So 8 years it probably took. So what I ended up having to do was I had to buy the specific disc, slips, the little black ones with the little notches in the side so it can fit inside for the 3 discs that are loose. There's only one that can snap into the jewel case insert inside. The rest are loose, so you have to have these slips to put them in. I had to buy those, and I could not for the life of me find the original back artwork. I almost bought one at one point. I don't want to name names, but there's a certain somebody in the community who tried to gyp me at one point because I went on Facebook and in one of my groups, a YouTuber who has a YouTuber wife that does gaming stuff too, was selling the back art for Panzer Dragoon. So he was selling it for, I want to say $200 or something. And I was like, if I'm going to drop $200, I better make sure this is the real deal. And I want to make sure I'm not getting gypped. So I went over I messaged him and I was like, I'm very interested. He immediately texted me back and he's just like, okay, cool. Let me know, where to ship it. And then I'll give you my email address. I'm like, okay, fine. So first things first, I'm like, let me go to eBay. I go to eBay. I search for Panzer Dragoon Saga rear artwork, and a picture, a listing shows up. I was like, oh, there's actually one for sale. This is awesome. Maybe I don't have to get this one off of Facebook. It was the exact same picture that the dude that was selling it to me on Facebook was using. So I text him back, and I'm like, hey, are you selling this same artwork on eBay? Because the picture you're using is the same one on this listing that I'm looking at right now on eBay. And I went there to check prices, and the prices were about the same. And immediately this dude started backtracking, and he goes oh no, man, you know what? This isn't for you. I'm gonna pass on selling it to you. I was like, I think I was about to get gypped. And I didn't know who the guy was at the time, but now I know exactly who he is, and I ran into him at Mo Game Con. And I was about to say oh, hey, look, it's the guy that tried to con me out of some money on Facebook. You're awesome. But yeah, this is actually a reproduction. Back artwork is the best I could possibly do right now. If I ever find the real one, I'm definitely going to trade up. But it looks exactly like the one that you normally would get. It is not pixely. It looks professional. You couldn't really tell unless you get real close up. You're yeah, everything looks a little bit faded, but it works for what I have. And so I can put it back on the shelf instead of having it sitting in some jewel cases on the side. So absolutely fantastic. This is my favorite RPG of all time. I remember calling out of work so I could play more of this back when I first picked it up. I remember I went, the day it came out, I ran to this big mall called Woodfield that's in Illinois because they had a really big software etc. in there. And I ran in there the day it came out. I got off of work, got in my mom's minivan, drove over to the mall, which was a good 30 minutes away, ran up there, and I walk in and I'm looking at the Saturn section. I'm to the clerk, I'm you guys don't have any copies of Panzer Dragoon Saga? And the guy goes, well, we only got 2 copies. One of them already sold. The other one's behind the counter. I'm why? He goes, because I think one of the guys that works here wants to buy it. I'm hey, man. I'm customer first. Like I used to, like if I really wanted something, I could get very, very aggressive. It doesn't happen often, but I was like, I needed to get this game because I liked the first two so much, and I knew that it was changing it up, and I wanted to play it real bad. So I'm like, dude, customer first. And the guy goes, "You're right." And he goes, "All right, fine, here you go." And he sold it to me, and I was like, "Yay, that guy's gonna be super pissed when he realizes this dude sold it to me." But he doesn't know who I am because I'm paying in cash. And yeah, the way they changed this series into an RPG just kind of blew my mind. Like there's sections where your character is walking around on foot and you have to interact with characters and stuff. And then all of the combat that's on the dragons, you can morph the dragon into different types as you're like in the middle of flying. And it's really cool the way it changes shape. And the story is fantastic. The music, hell yeah. I love everything about it. It's my favorite RPG of all time. And I said it last night while we were recording the new episode of the Super Neighbor Brothers podcast that I had claimed that 2020 was going to be my year of the RPG, and then COVID hit, and it just completely changed everything because I had no time for video games because of work. 2023 is now going to be my new year of RPGs, and I might just play through that one again because I miss it. I miss it so much. Panzer 2 is on another level. Yeah, Panzer 2 is awesome. Big money in my hands. I wish I owned Panzer games on Saturn. Well, I got the first two like really early on in my collecting. Like I got them when they were still going for like $30 or $40, so I wasn't paying like out my ass for them. But I'm just glad that I kept my copy. Like when I was selling all of my games when I was unemployed, when I lost my job in 2011, that was Panzer Dragoon Saga was one of the games I refused to sell. I didn't really know about it going up in price or how much it was worth. I just refused to sell it because I like it that much. And I had kept my Saturn. And I was like, I'm not getting rid of this game because if there's one thing I'm going to play, it's going to be on the Saturn, it's going to be Panzer Dragoon Saga because, like I said, it's my favorite RPG ever. You're typing. Great game, but I'm only on the second disc. Need to finish it. Yeah, I beat the shit out of it. I think twice back in the day. Like I said, I was calling out of work because I wanted to play it so much because I would get into it and I'd be like, I don't want to do anything else. I like work. No. Sacrificing my paycheck so I could play Panzer Dragoon Saga. That's the way to do it. This one is because of reasons. And that is Pebble Beach Golf Links. I picked this up when I was out with Rocket Sauce last year. We went to Freak Toys. I think it was the first time he ever took me to Freak Toys last summer. And I saw this on the shelf. They actually had this on the shelves and not behind the counter because this is a really cheap game. I think, shows the price right there. $7 slim dollars. There's a Twitch streamer that I watch. His name is Woo Chunk. It's all one word, Woo Chunk. And for like the longest time, he was streaming this game because he was trying to get like a perfect game. And there is always like a celebrity in the sports games that is like in the game to like you got Madden, you got Michael Jordan doing some of those games. You got, Joe Montana or whatever. This one has this guy named Stadler, who was like a golf pro at the time. And the guy looks like a walrus. He's got this gigantic bushy mustache and this weird haircut. And he's like overweight. And he just trash talks you. Like it's all full motion video stuff. He just pops up on screen when you do like a bad hit. It'll be like, what are you doing? Kind of thing. Or he'd be like, wow, that's kind of impressive. That kind of shit. And it was always really funny because we would always make jokes in the chat about Stadler, or like you just got like if he'd make a shitty remark toward you, like you just got Stadlered and all that. And it was really fun because I was always watching his streams, and even though he was just streaming a freaking golf game, it was really, really fun to watch this, like the jokes in the stream pop up whenever Stadler would show up on screen. And the other thing was I made a joke one time in the stream because the character that Woo Chunk was playing as, because it's all full motion video, all the characters in this are like I recorded up against a green screen doing the golfing movements and all that kind of stuff. And it's a little clunky because, early disc-based stuff. But so the character that Woo Chunk was playing as, every character has a caddy. So the character that Woo Chunk was playing as, which I think it was a female character, had a female caddy. And whenever you were lining up your shot, the caddy would do this thing where she would take a step back and then she would go like this. But the thing was where her eye level, what her eyes were looking at was the golfer's ass. So she'd go like this. And every time that would happen, I would type in the chat. And it turned into this big thing on the chat. It was so goddamn funny. Like every single time. And it was one of the reasons why I wanted this. When I went to Freak Toys with Rocket Sauce, I saw this on the shelf, and I am not kidding. I'm not exaggerating. I literally like jumped. I went, woo! I was like, I can finally own a copy of this. I don't know why I got excited over a golf game, but those streams were so much fun. I think he still plays it every once in a while. He actually has Stadler like emotes and stuff on his channel because that became a huge thing for his fan base. It was so fun. This one, on the other hand, is not. I talked about the first game in this series in the 3DO stream, and we're talking Resurrection Rise 2. This is Rise of the Robots Part 2. That craptastic, what was it, Silicon Graphics animated one-on-one fighting game that was nothing but shitty robots that barely could move, barely could fight. The controls barely responded. Well, you know what? It sold so well. Let's make a sequel. It was so well received. Let's make a Part 2 because everyone has been asking for that. No, they haven't. But I got it because I found this dirt cheap at Half Price Books of all freaking places. But this one, instead of having like 6 characters to choose from, this has 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 18 different characters to choose from. And they all suck. Every single one of them. I wasn't going to pass it up because it was dirt cheap. I want to say I paid like $10 for this. And it was actually complete. Even came with El Sponjo. Disclaimer CD-ROM. Made in USA. Has a label inside on above the disc. It says made in USA. But yeah, I wasn't going to pass it up. Like I say, you find Saturn games at like a half-price books kind of thing, and they're dirt cheap. Just buy it. But yeah, this game is poop. It's definitely better than the original. At least I will say the programmers learned a few things with what they did wrong in Part 1. The only thing was they didn't get a lot of things right because it still sucks, which is why we never got a Rise of the Robots 3. So yeah, there's that. Also available on the PlayStation 1 for anyone who wants it. I got this from a YouTuber. Well, he's not really a YouTuber. He's more like a, WhatsApp or whatever it is, or whatnot. The one where you can sell things. He does that, and he does movie reviews. Movie Tom. I hung out with him last year when I went to visit the church, the Game Grinder, in Minnesota. And like he was talking while we were hanging out about like how he was thinking about selling some Saturn games. And I got back from Minnesota, and I saw that he had put a whole bunch of them up for sale on Facebook. And I was like, dude, just sell me that one. I want that one. I wish you could have given it to me before I left, but just ship it to me. And he was like, okay, fine. So I got a copy of Revolution X. I used to play this in the arcade all the time. It's a, what do you call it? A gallery shooter that's all Aerosmith themed. Yay. You really couldn't hear anything going on in this game in the arcade because the arcades were always so loud. So every time like Steve Tyler or one of the bandmates would be trying to tell you something to do in the game, I'd be like, huh? But playing it at home is fine, and definitely wanted to have this on a disc-based system because, number one, the music will sound great because it's CD quality music. You're playing actual Aerosmith tracks. The video, the full-motion video stuff will look way better. All the voices will be there, and it's probably going to play better than the cartridge versions. But, yeah, the thing is, discs need load times, and that's one of the issues with this. But it's fine. I think you can use... Can you use the gun? I don't know if you can use the gun. I think you might have to use a cursor or like a reticle in the controller. I don't know if it uses the gun add-on because I never had this back in the day. It does not say. You suck. Let me know. Yeah, it doesn't say if it uses the gun. Shit. But whatever. Your gun shoots CDs out because 90s, but I'm not that big of an Aerosmith fan, so like I was only playing this because it was there in the arcades. So if I was going to get a copy of it, it was either going to be for the PlayStation 1 or the Saturn, and I happened to get the Saturn one first. So there's that. Hey, what's up, Denver Gamer? How's it going? Did not use the gun? Yeah, I didn't think so. It doesn't say anything on the back, which is disappointing. Why would you make a game that in the arcade was all about using a gun peripheral and you don't let it use the gun peripheral on the home console? Another thing is, if they can release Revolution X, why didn't we get Terminator 2, the arcade game? Sons of bitches. can't remember where I got this. I probably my local store because it's got like a torn off label. I think I got this at People Play Games when it was still open. But Scorcher, I don't remember much about this. I think it's a racing game. Ultra fast racing action with the most realistic physics to date. I doubt it. See, 6 fully 3D tracks. Sure. I don't remember much about this, and I don't think I've played it very much. I think I might have played it just to make sure it worked once I got home, and that was it. But I definitely need to put some more time into it. And I probably got this dirt cheap, which is why it's in my collection. Otherwise, it doesn't look that great on the back, so whatevs. Too much money for a home port. Do it anyway. Do it. I had this one back in the day, and I thought it was kind of like okay, but I ended up finding a dirt cheap copy of this online. And I found out why it used to be a rental copy because it has like a rental sticker on the disc, but it doesn't affect anything. The disc actually it has some smudges on it and a couple of scratches, but it's not too bad. But this is Scud, the Disposable Assassin. I don't know if this is based on an old comic book or something, like an indie comic. But it's like a run and gun done with like Silicon graphics. So it's like Donkey Kong Country, but really, really cartoony. It's okay. I remember liking it. It was okay back in the day, and it's still okay now. Like, whatever. Can't really say much because I haven't really put much time into it lately. But back in the day... Oh, and it does use the stunner. It does use the gun peripheral. What? I must be thinking... Is this a gun game? It is. How did I not remember that this was a freaking gun game? Am I thinking of Mr. Bones? I might be thinking of Mr. Bones. Memory, you fail me again. Yeah, this must be a gun game. Holy shit. I is confused. I don't remember that being a gun game. Like I said, I must be thinking of Mr. Bones, which I have found multiple times at Freak Toys. And the last 2 times, when I went there in August for my birthday with It's Rocket Sauce and Captain Algebra and Tiger Chainsaw, they had a copy of Mr. Bones for the 3D or for the Saturn. And I wanted to buy it, but I asked them to open it up first, thank God, because when they did, they only had one of the 2 discs inside. And I told them, I'm like, oh, this is supposed to have a second disc, and it's actually supposed to have like another inlay, not like a little paper slip, but an actual plastic inlay that goes in there, because I had Mr. Bones back in the day, and they're like, oh, okay, thanks for letting us know. And they like took it aside and put it in the back. And then we went back when TJ was with us, when we went back in September, and they put it back out on the shelf. It says right on the box, 2 discs. Dickheads. Anyway, back to the games. Sega Rally. I don't like these kind of rally games normally. It's kind of like playing, I don't know, like Gran Turismo-y, I guess, but this one is a little slightly more arcadey. This the one on the Dreamcast, though. That's the one that I got into for some reason. I don't know why, but I never really played this one back in the day. I never had it. The only one I've ever had in the series was the Dreamcast one. But because I had the Dreamcast one, I felt like I needed to get the Saturn version also. And I got this off of that dude in Brazil. He had this in with the stuff that he was selling, and I was like, just give it to me. I'm like, I'll take that one too. Sure, why not? I had the Dreamcast one. Give me the first game. And it's okay. It could be better. The Dreamcast version is definitely better. It's good with the wheel. I do not have a wheel controller. So we're talking about piecing games back together that I had back in the day because I used to just store them in the 90s in jewel cases and throw the big boxes away. This one I pieced together piece by piece. I did have the manual and I did have the disc. I did not have the back artwork, but I did find the real back artwork on eBay for like $15. That I was like, thank you. Because I did not want to have to buy this game. Because when I got back into collecting, this one was actually kind of expensive. I don't know if it still is, but back when I started back into collecting in 2013, 2014, this was like an $80 game. And I'm like, I don't want to pay $80 for this. Like, I don't want to. Luckily, I found the rear artwork and I didn't have to. So that is Shinobi Legions. It's Shinobi, but it's done with like Mortal Kombat style, where the character is a an actor being filled up against a green screen, doing all the movements and all that, and you play as them. And there's live action, full motion video cutscenes and stuff, which are super cheesy, but also kind of awesome at the same time. I used to play the shit out of this one back in the day. I loved it. A lot of people complained about like the way it didn't feel like a Shinobi game, but I was like, as long as it's fun, I don't care. And I always enjoyed this one. I've enjoyed pretty much every Shinobi game out there. So I had to get this one back into my collection by getting that artwork, and I completed my copy. Super happy about that. Didn't have to pay $80 frickin' to get it. Next up we have, I got this. My buddy got this for me at Gen Con 2019, I think. And that is Solar Eclipse. This is the sequel to Total Eclipse that came out on the 3DO and then got like a turbo port to the PlayStation 1, and then we got Solar Eclipse. I think this is exclusive to the Saturn because I don't remember this coming out on the PlayStation 1 at all. But it's more of the same. It's a into-the-screen shooter, kind of like Star Fox. It's a little clunky. This one has live action, like full-motion video cutscenes starring Claudia Christian from Babylon 5. Wow, she's really showing her range, going from one sci-fi franchise to another, huh? But this one's pretty cool. It's still, if you've played Total Eclipse, you've played this. It's just a little bit more polished. Still not the greatest, but it's okay. I can't complain. Now I have both games in the franchise. The first game for multiple consoles. But like I said, I think this one only came out on the Saturn, so I had to have that. And then I got this one from Felix the Brett on the Batter Rad Nerdatorium. Sonic 3D Blast. I think this had a version on the Genesis also, but obviously you want to do 3D, you want to do it on the Saturn. I hear that the one on the Genesis is not terrible. This one is just, I'd expect this one to be the superior of the two. But yeah, this one is like a 3/4 view, a top-down Sonic game, and it's a little jarring to be playing a Sonic game like this since you're used to it being side-scrolling and going super fast. You don't go super fast in this like at all. But there is still like the running into the screen bonus level stuff, so there is that. But not the greatest Sonic game, but not a terrible one either. It could have been a hell of a lot better, but I mean, they were trying to branch out. They're trying to do new things, so can't complain. So when I bought, what was it, In the Hunt at the Midwest Gaming Classic, the other game I bought at the same time where I got the deal was Street Fighter Alpha Warrior's Dreams, or Street Fighter Zero if you're in Japan. Yeah, this is the prequel series to the Street Fighter games that we know, like Street Fighter 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 5, and now 6. Yeah, this is before all that. Yet, a lot of the same characters are in this from those games. So I can understand Ken and Ryu, but I think a bunch of, Sagat's in this. Well, you got the Sagat thing about him getting his eye fucked up and all that. I think Guy is in this. Yeah, Charlie Sodom, Birdie, Guy from the Final Fight games. Yeah, and Charlie, didn't he get turned into Blanca in the Street Fighter movie with Van Damme? Ooh. But yeah, like I said, you want to get a Capcom side 3D or 2D animated fighting game, get it for the Saturn. It's going to be the best version, and yeah, it is. I had this one back in the day, and I played the ever-loving crap out of it. I loved it so much. Not my favorite series of Street Fighter. I still like the Street Fighter 2. All the iterations of Street Fighter 2 that we got over the years compared to these, even though these are probably a little bit better made because these are made afterwards, so they learned a lot, but I don't care. Spoilers, yeah. And then in 2019, I got that in 2018 at Midwest, and then at Midwest in 2019, I got Street Fighter Alpha 2. Yeah, it was the last day of the con, the last table I went to. I had I thought I had a specific amount of money in my pocket. And I was like, well, that's the last of my spending cash I have, like I have for the convention. Let's see if I can spend it wisely. So I went to this one table. I grabbed this. I think it was Mortal Kombat Mythologies on the Nintendo 64 and Legend of Zelda Four Swords Adventures, complete in the big box for the GameCube. And I tallied it up, and I was like, that is exactly how much money I have right now in my pocket. Perfect. Hey, sir, here you go. I'll take these. Here's my money. Oh, shit, I'm like $40, or $20. It was $20 missing. And I'm like, where did the $20 go? Oh, yeah, I went and got the autograph from Marquez, the guy who played Kung Lao in Mortal Kombat 2 like earlier in the day, and I totally forgot that I had spent $20 to get his autograph. I was like, shit. So the guy goes, okay, it's this specific price. And I was like, would you take $20 off of that? Because, last day of the con and all. And the guy goes, no. I'm like, well, I'm $20 short. And I want all 3 of these games. Will you sell them to me? And the guy kind of like went, okay. So like, here you go. And I made out like a bandit. So I got this a little bit cheaper, but even better than the original Street Fighter Alpha. This one upped the ante a lot. More characters and all that. Absolutely fantastic. I've probably played this one the most between the 2 of them on the Saturn. But yeah, I love this one a lot. It is fantastic. Alpha 1, 2. Yep, Alpha 2 is the best. Yeah. It's inspired by the Street Fighter 2 animated movie, but where's KMFDM playing over the fight scenes with Chun-Li? I want it. Speaking of Street Fighter movies... So, have you ever played a game that's based on a movie that's based on a game? This is Street Fighterception right here. I did not realize that Capcom had made a game based on the Street Fighter movie that was based on their game. And so I walked into that arcade, the one in this local mall that I always used to go to. I got the hiccups again. I walked into the arcade and I just happened to do a double take. I saw it and I kind of walked past it and I went, wait, what? I was like, when did this happen? Why did this need to exist? Because this movie was shit. I hated it. Absolutely hated it. I was like, well, I don't understand. Where did this come from? Why did Capcom do this? What? And it's done like Mortal Kombat where you're playing as the digitized footage of actors doing the moves against the blue screen. And it's all the actors from the movie playing the characters that they played. And the arcade game was flippin' terrible. It was terrible. It was the worst Capcom fighting game I think I had ever played. It didn't control well. All the characters sucked. It was stiff. So I was like, yeah, the hell with this. And I never played it again. I think I played 2 or 3 quarters worth. I put 3 quarters on the machine, played 3 times, and I was like, I'm done. And I ignored all the home ports. And then when I got back into collecting, I started hearing that Capcom optimized the ports for the home consoles. They actually tweaked it to make it better, so work better on a home console. They tweaked the controls and the speed and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, eh. So when I started getting to the licensed games, found this really cheap on eBay. I was like, I'll pick it up, whatever. I bought a copy of it, and it's actually not bad on the home console. It could have been a hell of a lot worse. It could have been that arcade version. Thankfully, it's not that, but you can see all the characters on the back there are played by the actors that played them in the film, which it's weird. You're playing as Van Damme. And when you're playing as Cammy, you're playing as freaking Kylie Minogue. And then when you're playing as M. Bison, you're playing as Raul Julia. But yeah, it works a lot better at the home console version compared to the arcade. This is head and shoulders above it. It's still not the greatest fighting game ever. It's far from that, but it's playable and it's fun, and I can't complain. Like I said, if it was a straight port of that arcade version, no, hell to the no. Yeah, the arcade version is absolute trash. If you're going to play it on either the Saturn or the PlayStation 1. It is... Like I said, they went back to work on it and they fixed it. It plays a hell of a lot better than it did in the arcade. So now we've got a repro from that Pipe Dreams Games I was talking about last time. That guy did the repro of Dragon Force 2 that I have, and he also did this one. And I was not aware that this game was available in Japan. I probably didn't need to get a repro of it because it would have probably been okay. It doesn't require a lot of reading from what I understand. So the Japanese language wouldn't have been a big deal, but it has been translated in English. What is there has been translated, but working designs again. It's Thunder Force 5. And when I bought the copy, the guy from Pipe Dreams goes, "Do you want to chip in a few extra bucks and get the metallic printing, or do you want to just go flat?" And I was like, "Give me that metallic, brah." And you can see the Sega Saturn is all reflective, and even on the side, the Saturn is reflective. And on the back, everything is like embossed in gold, which is rad as hell. And this is a pretty awesome horizontally scrolling shmup that is just mind-blowing. There's so much crap going on visually, hell's yeah. Like I said, I probably could have bought a Japanese version of this and not had to go through all the crap, because the thing is about Pipe Dreams is he does not give you the case. He just gives you the instructions, the rear artwork, and the disc, and then it's up to you to get your own case. Luckily, I bought a whole bunch of replacement cases off of Amazon a while back. So absolutely thrilled that I ended up getting this in my collection. It is like a mind-blowingly awesome shmup. I cannot praise it enough. It is fantastic. I love it. Love it! Did he? But it's got his face, though, doesn't it? I still think it's funny that this game was actually developed for the Saturn, and then the Saturn started to fail, so they're like, hey, you know what, let's port this over to the PlayStation 1. That's where everybody seems to be gaming nowadays, and everyone knows it as a PlayStation 1 game when it actually started as a Saturn game. And that's Tomb Raider. Yep. This was developed to be a Saturn exclusive, but Eidos got like cold feet because the Saturn was failing. So they're like, hey, let's do a port to the PlayStation 1, and everybody remembers this as a PlayStation 1 game now. And nobody remembers that it came out on the Saturn. It was developed for us as a Saturn game, which could explain why it was a little clunky. Like the original game was a little clunky compared to the second. But it's the exact same game as the one you know from the PlayStation 1. It's just it has a little bit of load time issues because Saturn is not great at doing 3D. But yeah, her breasts are not round like that in the game. They are actually triangles. But it's not a bad port. I wanted to have that because that's the OG version of the game. And then the Mortal Kombat game for this console, the one that is the best, because I've also played Mortal Kombat Trilogy on the Saturn, and it's not great. I don't own that. I want it. It's super expensive, though, for some reason. But Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, when I was talking last week about having those, I had that one party where I busted out the Saturn, and we played Bust-A-Move 2 and Baku Baku all night long. The third game that we were playing, like, in between, was this. And this was that hater, or this was the game that Saturn hater buddy of, was a friend of mine. Every time I would bring up the Saturn, that's the console's shit, or whatever. This was the game that made him change his mind, because he was like, this better be good. And we popped it in, and he was playing up against me, and he was just like, okay, this is pretty cool. Not a lot of load time, surprisingly. It's only like if you did like a fatality, it would do like a little bit of a, and then it would load the fatality. But it was smooth. It played well. The controls were great. Even though I'm not a fan of Mortal Kombat 3, this was what we had on the Saturn at the time, so I wasn't going to complain. It's still Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat's like sex. Even when it's bad, it's still pretty good. So, yeah, we played this and Baku Baku and Bust-A-Move 2 all night long. And this was like the fighting game. Until I got X-Men Children of the Atom, this was the fighting game that I played on this console all the time. And it's a great port. It really is. It has all the characters from the arcade, I think, plus one more. I think this has Rain in it also. And you can't, once you unlock them, they're like in there permanently, like not like in the arcade when I had to like hack my freaking arcade one up to get it to accept all the characters and have them be in there permanently. Great game, even though I'm not a Mortal Kombat 3 fan. That was a fantastic port, I will admit. What, is her chest more chesty? It's just all those triangles, man. I do not. Take that back, Peter. I got this from that dude in Brazil with all the other games that I've been talking about, and that was Virtua Racing. I was not aware that this was, VR Virtua Racing. Whatever. Yeah, I didn't realize that this was on the Saturn until it was like on that guy's list of all, the picture that he put on Facebook of all the games he was selling. And I was kind of like, okay, I'll take that too, because I think he was selling this for like $10. So I was like, yeah, let's do it. And yeah, it's not great. It's like an early polygon racing game. This is, like Daytona USA is better than this graphically. Everything in this looks like just like low res polygons and is not great. And it doesn't have rolling start playing over the game, which makes everything better. So yeah, there's that. That was one that I wasn't planning on buying, but because it was there and it was dirt cheap. Another one that I picked up I got this one off of eBay early on. That's Virtua Fighter 2. It had Virtua Fighter 1 that came with the console back in the day. And I don't think I ever actually bought Virtua Fighter 2 when that came out. I think I was kind of like over that. I was all about like the Fighters Mega Mix at that point. I was just like, I don't need a Virtua Fighter 2. Definitely better than the first one. It's more of the same. It's just the graphics and the controls have been improved. and all that, and a couple of new characters. And outside of that, it's Virtual Fighter. But yeah, I got this off of eBay when I got back into collecting. It's cool that it has like the metallic artwork and everything. So not much to talk about that. Virtual Fighter is a very common game. Okay, so this is a spoiler for my pickup video from this month. Went to Wisconsin the first weekend of December to participate in the Cartridge Club Extra Life charity stream with its Rocket Sauce. He streams as the last person on the stream every year, and he invited me last year and this year to participate with him. And we made like a weekend of it. So like we were going to be streaming on Sunday afternoon, and he was like, "Hey, come up on Saturday. You can spend the night, and on Saturday we'll just go out game hunting all day and stuff like that. It'll be really cool." I'm like, "All right, fine." So we went to a whole bunch of game stores, and I picked up this at one store. I probably shouldn't have, because this game is not good, but I had to have it because I was talking about Movie Tom earlier with that Revolution X. He was selling a copy of this on his Whatnot or WhatsApp or whatever it's called, the one, the auction site. And I was bidding on it, and some guy outbid me and paid way more money than I was willing to pay for this. But I was like, well, go where the money is. He was really upset that he didn't sell it to me, and I was just like, no. That guy's willing to pay that much for it. Take it. And then I definitely paid less than that guy paid for this at the store. But it's Virtual Highlight. Pretty much every game in this franchise is not good. They're like really badly made RPGs. It's like they're trying to be like, well, the original one on the NES was trying to be like Dragon Warrior, and it didn't do it very well. And then there's this, and I think there's another one in the series somewhere too. But this one was trying to go 3D, and it's not good. I checked it out when I got home from Wisconsin, and it plays just fine. But, this game is clunky. It has a lot of full motion video and all that kind of stuff, but it is just not great. Like, the controls are very unresponsive, and like the way your character moves is just like, what? Why did you think that this would work? I don't understand it. But it's kind of funny. The cut scenes are like so bad, they're kind of awesome. But it's in 3D and all that, and it just does not do it very well. But I don't think this got a port anywhere else. I think this is a Saturn exclusive. Atlas, shame on you. Shame on you. But I had to have it because, like, I'm a connoisseur of bad movies. I love bad video games, too, because they sometimes are more fun to play than the AAA titles because you just can laugh at them the whole time. Dragon Warrior with the Indiana Jones theme. Yep. Yeah, I don't expect to actually play through it all the way, but I think it's funny to have it just because I can be like, hey, I want to play one of the worst, like people come over, want to play the worst RPG ever made? Let's do it. Picked this one up last year when I was at Freak Toys with its Rocket Sauce. I think I picked this one up on my birthday, not when I went back in September, but I got a copy and I was super thrilled to get it too because I've never actually played one of the original games in this series, but that is Warcraft 2 Dark Saga, or The Dark Saga. Real-time strategy game, orcs versus humans. I've never played one of these. The only Warcraft game I've ever played is World of Warcraft. I played that for 6 months, and I was like, yeah, I hit level 30. I'm done. I never went back. But yeah, I've always wanted to play one of these Warcraft games, and I think this is the only one that got a port for a home console. This is, I think, on the PlayStation 1 also, but I found it first on the Saturn, so I picked it up. Blizzard for the win! And had to get this because Psygnosis, I found this at the Midwest Gaming Classic, I think in 2018, at the, what was it called? The Make Sense Variety Store before the convention. So I went there. No, this was in 2019. This is when I was there with Church and Jason and Justin. Yeah, in 2019. Yeah, I bought this when I was there. I found this in their case, and it's Wipeout. There was a port of Wipeout for the Saturn. It was originally a PlayStation 1 game. The only thing is the Saturn can't do specific things that the PlayStation 1 does very easily, like transparencies. So you've played Wipeout, it's like a 3D futuristic racing game. There's many games in this series, many games in this series. The thing is, like, when you get the shield in the PlayStation 1 game, it's like you're encased in like this like translucent glass that has like these colors running over it, right? You can see through it. You can see your car perfectly fine. It's just encased in this like, shield. But in the Saturn, or on the Saturn can't really do transparencies all that well. So when you get the shield, it's like you're looking through static. It is like a bunch of little pixels on the shield, and you can kind of see your car through it. It looks like shit, but it's not one of the things the Saturn can do very well. But when it comes to just being the original Wipeout, it plays just fine, plays exactly like the original. The music is still there, all that techno licensed music that I remember from the original game. I played this for a good while because I was recording the footage for it before I did the pickup video that I never released. And I played this for a while because I had not played the original Wipeout in like years. So it's a good port, except for a couple of graphical issues. And the last game I have to talk about tonight, stream's about to end, guys, sorry to say, is one of my favorites. I had like people coming over all the time just so they could play this. But I never knew this was an arcade game until the Arcade 1-Up came out, because I saw it listed on the Arcade 1-Up with like Marvel Superhero and all that. And I was like, that was actually an arcade game? I thought it was just a game that came out on the home consoles to like take advantage of, that kind of thing. We're talking X-Men, Children of the Atom. I didn't even pick up on the number one arcade smash. Never saw an arcade cabinet of this ever. Not even at Great America. But I had people coming over all the time to play this shit, and it is a one-on-one fighter by Capcom, but this is just strictly X-Men characters. You've got Wolverine. Oh, geez. Wolverine, Magneto, Iceman, Juggernaut, Storm, Omega Red, Spiral, Psylocke, Cyclops, and the Sentinel. Played the shit out of this. Like, I remember, like, I'd be at work, and I'd be getting ready to get off work. I would get off work at, like, 9, and people would start calling me at work and be like, hey, can we come over tonight and play some X-Men? I'd be like, okay. And, like, we'd be up until, like, midnight playing this at my parents' house, and my parents would be like, we have to work in the morning. Can you guys please keep it down? We'd be, like, screaming at each other and shit. It was so fun. But this was one of the first games I got in my collection back when I started collecting again. I want to say this was probably, like, the 4th game that I got, and I was super thrilled to get it. Super cheap. Doesn't have the... Just making sure this game looks okay. It looks pretty good. It looks like it's been resurfaced. But yeah, played the crap out of this when I first got it back into my collection. Absolutely love it. It still holds up. Absolutely. What's up, Nintendo? Yo ho ho and a bottle of hose. Nice. Oh, thanks for the stream. Yep. So that's it. That's the last game. You missed the whole stream. Sorry, dude. I'll be doing another one next week, even though it's going to be pretty close to New Year's. But thank you, everybody, for hanging out with me tonight. I really appreciate it. I didn't stumble over my words a lot because I'm actually not as tired as I usually am because vacation. But I'm still tired. I want to go back and play some more God of War. Keep an eye out for that Super Neighbor Brothers episode on Corpse Flood Gaming's channel. We talk about our favorite games that we played this year, favorite movies, favorite toys, favorite comic books, all that kind of stuff. Favorite everything from 2022. It's going to be pretty cool. It's also 3.5 hours long. Like I said, we're up until about 1:30 recording it. I forgot to put up a short last week because work was so damn... It was like my last day before vacation, and they worked me to death. I had no free time to sit down and even look at my phone the entire time I was at work last Friday. So I never had a break to put a short up at all. Because I basically did my shift, came home, streamed the Dungeons & Dragons game, which Mondane was in, and it was actually a ton of fun. Had a couple of tech gaffes, but I got it worked out now. It should be okay the next time we play in mid-January. So keep an eye out on my Twitch channel for that, twitch.tv/theoldassretrogamer. I'm going to be streaming the Dungeons & Dragons campaign there exclusively, so it doesn't interrupt all the gaming stuff here. There will be a short release tomorrow because... vacation, I have the time. It's going to go up. Don't worry about it. I'll probably be up in the morning. So keep an eye out for that. And then I'll be back next Thursday, 8:30 p.m. Central for the next Video Game Collection 2022 live stream. It'll be the last one of this year. Then I'll turn into the 2023 live streams. So keep an eye out for that. Woo! Check the next one out. I'm going to call that. Oh, hell yeah, man. I'll talk to you offline, Nintendo. So thank you, everybody, for coming and hanging out with me tonight. I really appreciate it. You're all awesome. Hopefully it will. Like I said, it doesn't need to be by next stream. Next stream, the characters are still separate. So it will be the stream after next. So whichever one happens after mid-January. So no rush, Peter, no rush. So I'll talk to you all next week. Have a good evening. Stay safe, everybody. I hope it's not snowing by you like it is by me right now. It sucks. So I'll talk to you later. Have a good night. Chris, the old ass retro gamer, out.
This is an apocalypse. We're all gonna die.
I bought a shovel. Yay me.